My favorite props to use in D&D campaigns are letters and newspapers, and there are a lot of reasons for that. It allows for information to be delivered without a need to improv. They're cost effective, and it allows for a lot of speculation and intrigue. It also makes the world feel real. A newspaper reports on daily things that are happening in a town or city in direct relation to the player's actions, but also things that are happening regardless of their actions. The letters from other characters are also a way to drag a character's pasts or backstories to the forefront, even if it's only for a moment. It reminds the player that things from their backstory and friends left behind, or old enemies, are still fully aware and thinking of them. But I think the best way to elaborate more on this is to give examples.
Hi folks, I'm Misty. This is Misty Steps. Kick off your shoes, get comfy, let's get into it. When I make my letters, I usually go pretty over the top. I often run games with high intrigue and high deception, so I actually have a spreadsheet of what NPCs I've introduced via letters and what their associated handwriting font is in Google Docs. I also have a sheet in my DM binder of all of the wax seal options that I have to make sure that I am using the correct one. My players also know about these references, and they know that if they get a letter claiming to be from the Duke of Wesselton, but it's in a different font, that there might be an imposter or some sort of shenanigans might be occurring.
I also make sure to save digital copies of all of my letters, so if a player is having a hard time reading the font that I chose, I can change it on my laptop to Times New Roman or something else more accessible for them to read a bit more clearly.
Obviously, you do not have to go to these lengths. But if you do have a generic handwriting font that you usually use when you're creating your letters, and then you suddenly switch that font up to be something else, that will usually cause players to at least second guess or question what might be going on to cause this change to occur. Has that NPC been captured? Is someone impersonating them because they just got a letter from them 2 weeks ago and it had nothing like this in that letter? You can also find some pretty cool paper at stationery stores and office supply stores as well as online. My wax seals I actually got as a gift, but I also know they exist in craft stores and in online sites as well, like Amazon, and you can also just even use colorful hot glue now to do that. You can also just stain paper with tea or coffee in order to give it that weathered effect if you're looking for that more antique kind of generic fantasy vibe.
I love writing letters to characters in-game because it gives them something customized. Whether that's a letter from home or a letter from the artificer they helped a few towns back. It also gives the characters a chance to write back and to set up those NPC relationships amongst the party. It also helps bring their backstory to the forefront and to have people start questioning, who is this person that's sending them letters?
I will be the first to say that letters are not necessary in a game. They do not fit every table, they do not fit every campaign, I do not use them in every campaign. But I do have a lot of players who enjoy reading them for the lore aspects. But if letters don't fit the game that you're currently running, because the game that you're currently running is a hex crawl and the players are constantly moving around, I think that's where newspapers can come into play really well. In fact, I think newspapers are some of the best props you can have when it comes to world building. I usually only make 1 or 2 pages of a newspaper, and I utilize Canva to do it. I will do a front page headliner and some side articles that claim to continue on page 2 or 3, and that way I can highlight the main story quest that might be most pertinent for the players to know about, and a couple of cute side quests that they might decide to look up later. This is a great way to introduce a town or a city to players, or to drop in a quest without them having to go fishing for information from the conveniently chatty barkeep, or without having to go talk to the king directly asking if there's any sort of quests happening. You can also use the side stories to simply build up the area around them. Maybe there was a festival that they just missed and cleanup is still taking a while because people got a little rowdy at the local tavern. And that way they know that might be why the tavern keep is a little grumpy. Or maybe Juliet and her pet shop is missing a giant tarantula, and maybe they don't need the heroes to go find it. If they don't want to, it could be a fun side quest. But it shows the world moving without them doing it themselves.
Newspapers are great because anytime anything big happens, you can have a new one made. When your party decides to fight the local dragon terrorizing the town, you can see how the town reacts in a newspaper. Or if they decide to start a fight in a bar, that may mean that they have a bit of a hit piece in the paper. It also allows you to show changes in the world. If there's a big festival coming up, a tagline for it can be in the paper. If the players take too long to resolve a side quest, it can resolve itself. It can also help highlight and tease future events, like if a haunted house is a future upcoming plot or a hospital, there can be an article about people going missing. If you're looking for a way to add life and consequences for a party while not having to have a full confrontation or combat, this is a great way to do it. Consequences aren't always bad, but it's sort of a butterfly effect. Things are going to continue on regardless of what people do. And this is my favorite way to show a world is developing and changing around the party, despite me not being able to describe all the construction projects happening in the city that the party may or may not even care about. It also makes for a great amount of clues that the party can have in regards to a mystery, so keep that in mind as well.
Clearly, these props do come with some nuance, and it's best to know your table before introducing them. If you have a table of players who don't really love to read or struggle to read long paragraphs, or if they have a hard time remembering items that are in print, it might not be for your table. On the flip side, if you have players who like having items to refer back to or enjoy that tactile clue, or if they like taking notes and having references in said notes, these props might be great for them. And it might even help them get more invested in the game. If you stuck around this long, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.